Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. I'm Ryan Bacuzzi. I'm the upper school director, and it's a pleasure for me to introduce our first senior speaker today. It's no surprise that Maddy Glick was voted on by her peers to address this class. People end up following leaders for different reasons. Sometimes it's a leader's brilliant idea, sometimes it's something amazing they've accomplished, or it's people who find themselves in leadership roles just because of who they are. Maddy is one of these people. Her unbridled enthusiasm for everything she encounters pulls others close to her. Whether she's serving as prefect or as captain of the varsity girls soccer team, people are drawn to follow Maddy's lead. Perhaps this was most evident in her ability to methodically organize the entire class in their triumphant September splash win as juniors, which had never happened before, and again as seniors. As a Brentwood lifer, we've watched Maddy grow in many leadership roles on campus, and we are excited to see what she tackles next. But before we get the treat of hearing her remarks to the class of 2019 and all of you, please join me in welcoming Maddy Glick to the podium.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to begin by thanking the dedicated maintenance staff and security crew for making this and so many other events throughout the year possible. Our school would not function without you. Yeah. Thank you as well to Dr. Riera, Dr. Cunyon, and Mr. Bacuzzi. And of course, my parents, without whom this day would not be possible. And finally, thank you to the class of 2019 for granting me this incredible honor. The Etruscans knew how to party. The ancient civilization loved their art, wine, dancing, and community. On their tombs, which housed their deceased loved ones, the Etruscans celebrated the joys of life. The tomb of Triclinium, created in 480 BCE, is painted in vivid colors, depicting people dining at a public banquet, wearing fancy clothes, eating delicious food, and dancing with gusto to their lively music. It might seem ironic at first that a scene honoring life on Earth is vibrantly depicted on a vessel built for death, but the Etruscans understood the importance of being in the moment, and even as they faced the darkness of mortality, or perhaps in spite of it, they embraced the virtues of a life well lived. Like the Etruscans, Carly Simon was contemplating the future when in 1971 she sang, "We can never know about the days to come, but we think about them anyway, and I wonder if I'm really with you now or just chasing after some finer day. Anticipation is making me late, is keeping me waiting." So what is Carly chasing? What is she waiting on? We know she is nervous for her big date with James Taylor. But Simon seems unfrozen by her uncertainty about the future. She worries about moments yet to come instead of being fully immersed in the here and now. In some ways, Simon's apprehension reminds me of the anxieties we experienced during our years at Brentwood. At times as we prep for tests or struggle through the challenges of the college application process, we may have occasionally lost sight of the gifts that were in front of us. The cool music at Coffee House, the colorful mural in our senior quad that we pass by every day, or even the spectacular lack of athleticism we witnessed at the Ben Schiff versus Sammy Victor basketball battles. As the song continues, Simon comes to realize her uncertainty about the future is limiting her ability to be fully present. And in an enlightened moment, she finishes with these powerful words, "Stay right here, 'cause these are the good old days." Carly is urging us to live, to connect to our world, instead of chasing something that is elusive. Like the Etruscans, Simon recognizes the joy of the present instead of pondering an uncertain future. It's likely that if Tony Soprano, the infamous Jersey mobster, were a Brentwood student, he would have been in Foot's office a lot for violations of the Brentwood School Family Handbook. But at least in one poetic moment, he offers really good life advice. During a blackout on a cold, rainy night, Tony and his family eat dinner by candlelight in Artie Bucco's restaurant. In a quiet, tender scene, Tony leans in to toast his wife and kids. To my family. Someday soon, you're gonna have families of your own. And if you're lucky, you'll remember the little moments, like this, that were good. Tony is truly onto something. He recognizes that the brief, beautiful encounters that happen in between big milestone occasions are the ones we should hold on to. We can and should remember the landmark events in high school, the multiple CIF banner wins, singing in Carnegie Hall, and of course, winning Splash, not once, but twice. But it's often the little moments in between, the ceremonies, that make us genuine and raw and real. 2 weeks ago, I experienced my own little moment that will stick with me for the rest of my life. At 4:30 a.m. on the morning of Mystery Night, I stood along the Malibu shoreline. As the dawn light peeked over the horizon, I felt a mixture of exhaustion and restlessness while reflecting on the night's festivities. My buddy Gavin broke my daze when he suddenly turned to me and asked, "Should we go for a run right now?" The next thing I knew, we were sprinting alongside the water. As the sound of chatter faded behind us, I reveled in this moment with my oldest friend. With sand beneath my feet and wind hitting my cheeks, I made a mental note to press pause, to soak this feeling in, and try my best to be in the moment. This inevitable rising of the Malibu sun marked the conclusion of what was a night of celebration for our class. I knew this experience would eventually turn to one of nostalgia, but in that brief space between the dark of night and the light of day, I chose to be present. There's nothing that can be done to prevent the inevitable passing of time, but it's important to remember that sometimes we just need to stick our feet in the sand and appreciate a moment before it fades away. Maya Angelou once wrote, "We spend precious hours fearing the inevitable. It would be wise to use that time adoring our families, cherishing our friends, and living our lives." Like Carly Simon and Tony Soprano, Angelou reminds us to relish the good times we have and appreciate loved ones. Today affords us an opportunity to voice gratitude to those who have supported us in our efforts to successfully arrive at this important occasion. Backstage, just before our 6th grade performance of the Odyssey, I began to panic. I was afraid of forgetting a line, or even worse, letting down Miss Nevin, one of Brentwood School's enduring treasures. Sensing my jitters, a parent volunteer put her hands on my shoulders, looked me in the eyes, and instructed me to plant my feet firmly and feel as if I was a part of the ground below me. In essence, to connect with the moment. In order to overcome my worries, I needed to immerse myself in the performance wholeheartedly. This advice is the same that I want to impart all of you today. I don't know what's going to happen in 2 days, 4 days, a week. But if I can offer any type of guidance, it is to plant your feet firmly in your experiences, to be there in the present, and to give those days value. If we are so trapped in what others think of us, or what might happen if we fail, we lose sight of the here and now. So thank you for your advice, Callista, and know that as I'm giving this speech, my feet are rooted on this stage as firmly and as deeply as they can go. We've been fortunate at Brentwood to be surrounded by faculty and staff that guide us through the complexities of our teen years, that build us up when the challenges of young adulthood could weigh us down, and help all of us come into our own as human beings. In a moving scene in the film Dead Poets Society, Professor John Keating, played by Robin Williams, lines up his class in front of a wall displaying old photos of former students that walked the same halls decades before. As the camera pans between Keating, his class, and the portraits, we observe the boys looking back into the past and seeing reflections of themselves in the echoes of generations that came before them. As the weight of this existential moment begins to set in, Keating hauntingly whispers to his students, "Carpe diem," which translates to, "Seize the day." He's urging the young men not to take their lives for granted, but rather to live completely in the moment before they too become memories captured in nostalgic photos. Dead Poets Society poignantly reminds us of the fleeting opportunity of youth, and perhaps more importantly, it highlights the profound impact that committed teachers have on their students' lives. Professor Keating's message was echoed by Dr. Zusky in a letter to our class 9.5 months ago when she urged us to slow down our final year together, writing, "I hope that you'll give yourself the opportunity to feel the experiences of this year and to encase them in your memory for later. Senior year should not be the pinnacle of your life by any stretch, but you are the stars on the upswing and you deserve to enjoy it." Encouragement from the faculty have helped shape who we are as a class and as human beings. Like Mr. Becker, who in 8th grade turned me on to history by weaving his love of Tupac Shakur and kickball into American studies. Becker, as well as Mr. Schul, your passion for history laid the foundations for the rest of my academic life. Or Miss Newman, whose love for art, like the tomb of triclinium, is evident in the tears welling in her eyes as she describes the beauty of works projected on the screen. And Dr. Katz. I've never received a paper with more red markings on it and notes that read, "Maddie, what does this even mean? Is this even English?" But you taught me that busting your butt on something, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, is an invaluable skill. And I couldn't have made it through my years here without encouragement from Miss Siegel and a hug, some candy, and an occasional tissue from Miss Carrie James. So class of 2019, here's the point. We need to make the small moments count. Times when we made each other laugh in class, when we all played HQ in the quad, and when we danced during First Friday. These were the times when we looked around, took a second to pause and quit thinking for a moment about the future. We will always have our memories to look back on, but the times when we weren't focused on the task ahead of us were the ones that made our time here so special. For me, I will always have the boys on the 6th grade flag football team who stood up for me when a lineman on the other team said something cheap. And I will always have the time when the crackle of the campfire was extinguished, we turned to each other, our cheeks red and puffy from crying, and we simply all hugged and reminisced about our experience. As Carly Simon said, these are the good old days, and I applaud and thank my friends and classmates for all that they have done to make these days so good. In 1939, Lou Gehrig faced the Yankee faithful in his last appearance at Yankee Stadium. Suffering from ALS and facing his imminent mortality, Gehrig said in his farewell address, "Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth." In that moment, in front of the many adoring fans for whom he'd fought on the field, the once indestructible Gehrig stood proud and strong, appreciating his time as a Yankee. We should all take inspiration from the Iron Horse. Despite uncertainty about our futures, we are here now, celebrating the times we've enjoyed with one another. Today, I consider myself so very lucky to have had all of you in my life. So class of 2019, my last hope is that you make certain to cherish the little moments, enjoy the journey, and remember always to seize the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Maddie. What a way to kick it off. Inspirational, wise words. Now we're going to have a song, Blue Skies, Mr. Blue Sky, by the Madrigals, Concert Singers, and Women's Choir. Come on up, guys.